Welcome to the Global Discussion, a discussion with creatives, leaders, and thinkers. My name is Simon Hodgkins. Today, I'm joined by Tatiana Mirska. Tatiana, you're very welcome to the show. Let's begin by asking you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your world and what you do. So over to you, Tatiana.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Simon. It's a pleasure. Also, it's interesting to contemplate a little bit about, your career, the history you had in the profession and other things, what really you want to share with people, right? Among all the things that happened to me or are happening to me, what I would like to share, what I think is valuable, yes? So to my career, I would say I really like kind of novelty, right? So my career is a good reflection of that. So I was jumping from one industry to another, while I started in Ukraine, and at that time when I was starting, marketing was a very new profession in general. When I was a student, there wasn't such a profession. I mean, it may sound weird to people in Western worlds, right? But in my world, or in the country where I was growing up, marketing appeared when I was around 20. And that was my second profession, right? That I was choosing absolutely consciously at the age of 25. So I made the choice, and I'm still so happy with that because I really love what I do. So I worked in various companies, starting from a research agency and running a consumer research agency, then switching to CPG. I worked actually twice in the biggest Ukrainian vodka production company. First time as a strategy and research, and the second time as the global marketing director. That was one of the biggest brands, and it was very exciting to make a. The first time I came, well, both times I came there was a moment of turnover. And, generally I have this reputation of a change agent. So companies often call me when they want to change something. Then they find it kind of hard to make a next move. So that's when I appear on the scene. So my career in marketing is far from an easy one, not easy at all, because I had to always work with this resistance that people naturally have to changes that, even if they understand they have to make, still it's so difficult and sometimes very painful to make. So I'll be growing my muscle in change management for many years. Then I worked in retail banking. That was fun as well. I suddenly switched to eSports. That was very unusual, and most people who knew me, they couldn't believe that I went from a corporate career to eSports. But I loved it so much. We sponsored an eSports event once, and I got so fascinated with what was going on at that time in eSports, with the growth rates, with all the forecasts of the growth for that industry. I decided to join it, and I really enjoyed it in many ways. I had to start everything from scratch, because things that worked in traditional marketing, all this polished ads and stuff, they didn't work in esports. That was complete waste of money by brands who tried to apply the same principles, the same approaches that they used in traditional marketing. This audience is so different. Their tastes are so different. The things that they love, the things that they appreciate and they support, they are so much different from anything that I experienced previously. So that was very interesting. also it was very confusing to brands because mostly they were sending their media agencies to us asking, here's the brand, they're interested to be in esports, but we have no idea how to get integrated. So when I worked, for instance, in StarLadder, that used to be a big esports operator, we had to build our own advertising agency inside because the clients were mostly coming, we want to be there, but we have no idea how to do that. So that was also fun because we were creating the integrations, creating and thinking how can a brand be natively integrated into an esports environment, into esports event that so that the fans don't hate it, because if they hate it with all the power that they have, and they love the same. Well, because they're mostly young people, right? So that's the way they live. So the same way they treat the brands. And then after esports, I was looking at IT for quite a long. I was fascinated with the whole thing that software now, or well, for many years does, but still now is capable of doing. How the right use of software is able to change the whole environment of the business, the whole context of the business, right? How well, I would say it's not easy to any company, but I mean, when you build something from scratch, it's easier than when you have to transform a business that is still operating, but you have to transform and inbuilt new technologies, new approaches, train people and stuff like that. So I kind of got carried away and decided that now it's time for me to move to software development, and moved to software development some 4 years ago. And I don't regret it. I really love doing marketing in this industry. That was quite long. Yes.
Well, thank you, Tatiana. Well, you've taken us on a journey from research and strategy. We've been in and out of the drinks industry. We've done a little bit of banking. We've gone to the world of esports, completely different. And you gave us some information there on how some of the things that you'd learned to that point just didn't apply. This was a completely new industry. And you were talking about, almost having to start from scratch here. And you talked about being a bit of a change agent and somebody that's sort of brought in to make things happen. And then we've kind of brought it up to speed with software. So thank you for taking us through that. And obviously for people watching or listening to our discussion today, you have an exceptionally broad range of marketing skills. You've been a chief marketing officer at the highest levels. You've worked for companies based in Ukraine, as we were talking about at the start. You've worked for companies out of the USA. You've worked for companies, I think, in Spain. Your latest organization, I think, headquartered in Spain, if I'm right in saying that. What's it like working in an international environment, or what's it like working for international companies? Because obviously you started off your career very much in Ukraine, and we know at the time of recording, Ukraine's gone through a lot of change in the last few years with the global headlines. So what's it like working on an international stage as a chief marketing officer today? And what's it like from a business context in Ukraine today?
Well, the companies that, well, the Nemirov, the biggest vodka brand that at that time that I was talking about, it was already an international. It was a Ukrainian-based company, but we were selling to 70 plus markets, and we had 22 markets that we actively supported by our marketing efforts. So at that time, I started kind of that international exposure and working on an international level, having a chance to work with great agencies in the States, also in the UK. that was absolutely amazing. So, I mean, culturally, that's difficult. If I take myself away to back then to that experience when I had to run so many, or I had to at least supervise marketing in so many markets, the most difficult part was the cultural context, I would say. For instance, Kazakhstan. It was so different from anything you can imagine. The way that people are used to work, the way the people are used to perform their duties, the way they treat their supervisors and stuff. That was so much different from what I was used to in Ukraine. So I had to rebuild the whole context of how I communicate with the team in Kazakhstan, for instance, or sorry to mention, but take Russia. We also had an office there, right, at that time. And that was completely different, even though in the context of Ukraine and Russia, we're completely different countries. Uh, we seem similar for people who don't know the whole context, but we're very different in many, many ways, doing business as well. So I had to I had to adjust myself to or take the Emirates, the completely different context. You come there and you expect one thing and you get into an absolutely different, and then you start to learn how these people operate, what's the market is about. And I think this is something which is very familiar to people who operate on a global level, right? So nothing new probably for those who do that, and a lot of new things for somebody who is entering that context, right? So now the same. We have many nationalities in our company. The company used to be Ukrainian, but now it's international. So we still have lots of people, Ukrainians, working in that company alongside with other nationalities from Central Asia, from Eastern Europe, from Western Europe as well. So we still have to deal with this cultural context. So we even conduct trainings so that we train people how to deal with their colleagues, or how to deal, for instance, with their clients, because we have clients around the world. So yeah, that's another story, right? How to work with the clients, how to, because Ukrainians are quite straightforward people. So, and as we know, in many cultures, it's considered almost rude, right? When you don't start your conversation with a small talk about, whatever, even the weather, right? We're just, okay, that's the meeting. Hi, and we start the discussion. It's just the way. So we have to on one side, we have to teach the team, to explain to the team that, in a different context, you have to take that into account. And on the other hand, we really explain that to our colleagues from other countries. So we just have to be, I think everything has to be explained. The more you explain, the less ambiguity you have, the less problems probably you face. When people understand, the more people understand, the better. That's the way I live. That's the way I also, bring up my child. I try to explain as much as possible, being a believer that this is the way to avoid conflict, to avoid confusion, to avoid ambiguity.
Thank you for sharing that, Tatiana. And I mean, we've talked a little bit about the different industries you've worked in, and also then we've now touched on the different work cultures, and of course, then not just working with each other, but working with customers in different geographic regions as well, has its nuances and its cultural variations. So thank you for sharing that with us. Now, throughout your career, obviously, AI wasn't a thing. You moved into a real fast, different niche. We talked about eSports, for example, But now AI is a thing and it seems to be everywhere. And as a chief marketing officer, what are your thoughts on where we're at with AI? Are you using it on a daily basis in your marketing tech stack? How does it feature in your world and the companies and the type of work that you do today, Tatiana?
First of all, I should say that in this company that I work for right now, CHI Software, we are doing this strategic turnaround, moving from a brilliant outstaffing company, and I mean it saying brilliant because there are so many absolutely brilliant processes built to make the process as smooth as possible, but we would like to make that next step, and that's where I come in, right? So last year I joined the company to help make this strategic step, and we decided that we want to go in AI. We already had very strong resources internally, because when I did this strategic analysis of what we are, of what our strong and weak sides are, I noticed that we already have a very powerful R&D center. We have lots of people that are already very well trained in various AI technologies, right? So it was natural for the company to start focusing or to start putting more focus on AI, and focusing on that in communication as well, which was very important, right? So we developed our programs, our R&D programs, to push us further into that. We started to talk to our current clients, offering them what we understood we're doing well. We started to develop some software solutions for ourselves so that we can then expose them, to demonstrate them to our clients, and explain and show as a case how it works and what value it brings to the business. And I should tell you that this process is quite successful. Then Gen AI appeared. We were already in that process, and then we just jumped on that bandwagon. So we started we developed already, well, for us and for our clients, we developed many variations of AI assistants for industries like edtech, like retail, B2B, us, for instance, like internal chatbot for a huge CRM provider for their clients, so that they can easily find answers to their questions. So we really appreciated that, and we decided to develop a product which was not the first, but one of the first cases when the company decided to launch its own product, because we're a service company, not a product company, but decided that it's worthwhile now trying to launch our own product, and we did so. So now we're offering a kind of a ready-made solution, so something that we can easily install on your website, and it will be still very customizable with the full control over what that chatbot is saying and how this chatbot is communicating with the client. So it was a very, very interesting journey for me. Going back to your question, how we are using AI in marketing. Every day we test and experiment. Like every month we're experimenting with new solutions. We've been using ChatGPT from the day it was launched. Now we're using NoteLM, we're using Claude, we're using everything that is now available in the market. We're also being a pilot client for a new startup that is developing, hopefully, an absolutely new solution that will, well, that's a different topic, I should tell you, because there will be so many features in that solution. That solution will be a perfect sales assistant, in my opinion. So our team, myself and a couple of my teammates were helping that startup to build that solution. So, we are also very interested to have it so that hopefully we will get rid of maybe up to 10 platforms that we're using now, because it will all be done in that one solution with all the triggers working, with all the signals that we can get from so many sources. I would say now we're having up to 50 sources where we will be sourcing these triggers, these signals, and then the AI will be processing that and letting not even the person, still the system, still the AI know that there's a certain event that should trigger a certain algorithm of events. So by the time, it's not that like it is right now, you have to search for information, and then you have, using some kind of an AI system, and then still you have to make so many things manually. This system will be doing everything. So only on the last step, the system will be sharing that with you so that you can have kind of an eye on that. Is this all right? Is this okay? And only at the beginning. Then the system will completely work automatically. So you will only get involved at the moment when you really receive an answer, or you will really receive, I wouldn't say an answer, right? But you will only receive a meaningful answer where you can then come in and start a conversation with a potential client. The rest, absolutely everything, will be done by the system. Can you imagine? That's just a fantasy, but hopefully it will be live next year.
It sounds extremely exciting. I mean, you're making big claims there in terms of, a big claim of reducing maybe 10 different platforms, pulling all those signals together. And we've seen some big global headlines of companies removing some software that they have and moving to something new, from a cost perspective and obviously from an efficiency perspective. But it also sounds here that you're moving the human element to checking, you're talking about the start and the end, and also probably up the value chain in terms of when a human is required versus the machine being able to do the vast majority of all those steps. And I think we're all sort of on that road at different stages, but it sounds extremely exciting. Obviously, being in the software world, you're right at the sort of leading edge of that. So thank you for sharing that insight, Tatiana. I've got to ask you, coming back to the marketing side of things as well as the technology side of things, if you're talking to a room full of chief marketing officers, which I know you do from time to time, what sort of advice are you giving to people, or is there any advice you could share with us here on this episode for people in marketing when they're thinking about the road ahead? What sort of advice or tips would you give to people that they need to be thinking about at the moment?
Well, I still think that the team is the core of the success, not the machine, right? So not the AI. I mean, of course, we have to be, well, we are on the front line. I mean, marketers, right? Very often we are. We always have to deal with the uncertainty. The whole profession is very challenging. I don't even have to mention, right? Everybody knows that marketing is very challenging. So I think the first thing, we still have to focus on people, who we choose, how we build the team, and then only the technology. So I wouldn't say that I will be getting rid of some people. No, when I, for instance, when we started to use all this content helping, I would say AI, right? We just started to produce more content. We just started to be more helpful to the company. We were able to start more activities that were useful for the sales team, so for the engineering team, right? So I'm not looking at this from the viewpoint how many people I can cut. No, I'm looking at it, what else can I do? How else can the marketing team be useful to the company? What new benefit we can offer to the whole corporate team? That's how we look at that. So yes, the technology is very important. So I think those people who didn't embrace the technologies and who don't embrace the technologies, they are losing to they might, well, they're risking to lose relevance, right? They're risking their career, in my opinion, right? Because I mean, I don't know industry that didn't change because of the technology and is not changing because of the technology. Even the very, very traditional ones, everything is now changing. So you have, and marketing somehow is expected to be the first to embrace it. So also it's a part of our profession, right? So testing and testing and testing is the way to go, in my opinion.
Thank you, Tatiana. Yeah, it certainly is. Marketing seem to be at the very front of that. And yeah, it is interesting how it's impacting, as we know, it's impacting absolutely everything that we do. But also, I really like the point that you're making about it's not about, now, in some cases, people do remove staff, they remove costs. I mean, that's a reality of business. But I really like what you're saying in terms of positioning, in terms of being able to position, whether it's more marketing people or salespeople, to do other higher value tasks for an organization, I think is really beneficial. And using the technology to improve efficiencies or to grow or to scale, I think is a great way of looking at it. I want to ask you something else, though. I want to ask you about your own roadmap, the next 6 to 12 months. What are you thinking about? Are you caught up in this new fantastic AI technology software that you've described to us? What's on your roadmap? What are you hoping to achieve? What does the year ahead look like for you, Tatiana?
Well, I hope that we will soon see my digital copy as an AI assistant on our website. I'm really looking forward to it. We've been working on that, and I hope it's going to be fun, and it will be a nice looking AI assistant. Also, the software that I described to you, I'm really thrilled with that. And yes, I'm really looking forward to seeing how it starts to operate in our company and, of course, in other companies as it's a SaaS solution. I will be continuing the Gen AI and AI journey because I'm so interested and thrilled with what it offers the businesses, any kind of business. Even though there's so much noise around it on the day-to-day operational level, it's still so many things to do. I mean, when we talk to even some of the very advanced companies that we work with, haven't embraced AI yet because it takes time. That's something that I mentioned at the beginning, that when the company is an established one, it's not easy to inject new technologies, not breaking the whole system, right? So the companies are really looking into, that's why we actually started AI consulting services, because now we see our clients that they come to us and say, well, you know what? We don't really want you to do it for us. We want you to do it with us and teach us how to continue doing it, because we don't want somebody to do it instead of us. We see it as a core value for the future of our business. So we understood that not only we have to offer the solutions, we really have to offer consulting, so that companies are, after our team leaves, the companies can operate themselves, right? So The same we do with chatbots, or let's say AI assistants, right? So we built our product the way that it's self-sufficient. We don't have to support it. We will teach the client's team to support it themselves, so that they don't need they don't need to pay us every time they need to update it. And you have to update its knowledge base every time something changes, right? So it's a continuous process. So I'm also excited about that. I think that's an interesting area where I will be developing, and the company that I work for will be developing. So I don't think I will change something in the next year. I'm kind of still very, very interested in what I'm currently doing.
Well, you're certainly in the right place. You're in an exciting time as well. And thanks for bringing in that consultancy side of it as well, because it is a little bit different, isn't it, with a technology solution, because you can't just put it in place and forget about it. Like you're saying, you have to update the knowledge bases, and things change and evolve, and the technology is changing rapidly. Every time I look, there's a new version of a new AI platform that's doing something else or something new. And when we get to this situation where machines are improving machines, it's going to get very, very exciting, and it's already exciting. So, look,
Mhm.
two quick questions to finish off, Tatiana. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our worldwide audience today? Now, that might be something we've talked about that you want to expand on, or something completely new. Some final thoughts from you. And the very last thing is, if people want to connect with you, find out more about some of this great work that you're doing, and get in touch, where's the best place to point people to? So two questions to finish us off here today.
Mhm. Well, probably it's interesting to mention that when you are a change agent, as I am, what I learned, what in my opinion is very important, is take time and give people time. So some people are, even when people declare that they need a change and need it urgently, still there's their own pace with which they can embrace the change, that in which everybody's every person is dealing with his or her insecurities, and change is one of those things that really uh, um, pushes some buttons inside, right? So I think when I only started on that journey, I was very impatient, and that brought lots of suffering to me, because I wanted things to change and I didn't see them change at the pace that I wanted them to change, right? So I grew very frustrated with the companies I worked with the people I worked with. But in the course of time, I learned that I have to give people space. I have to still share whatever I know, right? But let them move in with the speed that they can move. Otherwise, well, it's difficult. Then they start to perceive you sometimes as an enemy, right? Even though you have the best intentions, just the best, right? But because you were pushing them too hard, they had to protect, right? So I would say we all have to change. There's no way we're not changing. Everything is now changing. Yes, it's just be patient. Be patient, but be patient, be resilient, and continue to do what you decided to do, even if it takes more than you expected or longer than you expected, right? If it takes, for instance, if I plan to make a change like in 1 year, and then it takes 2 years or 3 years, when I was younger, I would probably search for another company. I would say, no, this company is not good enough for me. They're not moving as fast as I wanted them to move, right? Now I'm just, trying to find where I have to explain more, where I have to help more, what else can I do that people can move faster or at least move, right? So I guess this is something very important that I learned. At least it's very important to me, and I see that it's helping me a lot in also building relationships with people, good friendly relationships, not not the ones where you are always stressed out. And where to find me? The best place would be LinkedIn.
Well, thank you very much indeed for sharing that. And it's such a great point for us to end on, because with all the great plans that we all have, bringing people along with us is such a critical part, isn't it? And some people can move faster than others, and we need to be very mindful of that. But thank you for taking us on a wonderful journey today. It brings us nicely to the end of this episode of the Global Discussion. Before I wrap up, I just want to thank our international audience for watching or listening to this episode today. I'm going to ask you to like, follow, subscribe, and share the Global Discussion with other people. We'd like to have them here with us. And I want to thank you all for, joining me. And hopefully you'll join me again for some more discussions with creatives and leaders and thinkers just like Tatiana. Thank you, Tatiana. It's been a wonderful time to spend with you again today. Great to talk to you.
Thank you.